Now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going. Close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he? Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us once again on the Pick and Go Rugby podcast. And look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Last week was a tough one for the Tips. Between the Chiefs and the Drua, we're certainly struggling. It needed bounce back. So with the selectors have rung the changes, we've got a new panel in and we're ready to go hard this week. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see to my right, I'm joined by Karl Tiley. Karl, how are you, mate?
Kia ora, I'm good. Good to be back. I love coming off the bench. Second or third appearance this year, so looking to put in a big shift.
Definitely earning that sub-sug tag you've given yourself, so hopefully we can see another impact performance here. And very pleased to be joined as well by Hurricanes legend, one of the leading podcasters in New Zealand, and most importantly for the purposes of this podcast, the king of the power play, James Marshall. How are you, mate?
Hey, good, mate. Thanks for having me. I was a little bit similar to you guys last week. Really struggled with the tipping last week. Few upsets that I did not see coming, but I'm hoping to find a little bit of value for our listeners this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I think since we're all on the same page, we can maybe just blame the rugby. So the team's got it wrong and the tips were all right. So yeah, I'm good at making excuses. So we'll lead off on that foot. But I think first of all, if we're going to look back on last week, we have to touch on Moana Pasifika, right? Awesome scenes at Mount Smart Stadium on Friday night as they got one over the Canes in Golden Point there, and then a really competitive showing against the Blues on Tuesday evening as well. So yeah, all signs pointing up. Jimmy, as a Canes fan, what were your sort of thoughts as Danny Tyler was running away there in the 85th minute? Were you a bit of mixed emotions or?
Oh, mate, it was a tough watch as a loyal Canes fan. I was pretty disappointed watching that game. It was a hard watch, but fair play to Moana. Like you say, that even though the try went against the Canes and they lost the game, it was pretty special to see what it meant to Moana and see the celebrations and see the crowd. And like, how good is it having Moana in this competition? I mean, they bring something different. I think they bring a different style of play, which some teams are struggling to adapt to. Real physicality. They love a big hit. And when they hit someone, they get so much energy from it. You hear the chahoos going and you just see the team lift. So they're a real niggly side to play if you don't play smart. So the Canes found that out the hard way. And even on Tuesday night, the Blues struggled a fair bit in that game as well. So they're definitely no easy beats like some of us thought.
Yeah, no, I think we were probably pretty pessimistic about their chances on our preseason pods. We sort of thought it'd be a tough season, but they've already exceeded our expectations. What have you seen from them so far, Karl? Do you think this is something they can repeat going forward?
Yeah, I think I'm loving it. I've made no secret that I don't really care for the Canes too much. No disrespect, Jimmy. No disrespect. It's more about things outside of that of Anyway, so I was up and about kicking them home in that last try. I think it was great to watch. Their performance against the Blues was huge. I do wonder if these short turnarounds will catch up to them. Their depth's going to be really tested in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, I've got a note here. I was going to say, have they exceeded our expectations already? And I think they probably have. And if I'm the Highlanders, I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you, as the resident Highlanders spokesman on the podcast, I see they're currently $12 to make the quarterfinals book. Yeah. And sort of, I was doing a few sums the other night, and I reckon you probably need 6 wins to give yourself a shot at playing finals footy this year. If they can knock over the Highlanders in one of the 2 games, that puts them pretty well on track. You must be starting to.
Yeah, I was looking at the table earlier, and I don't know how the Southern men are going to make it. Like they have to put in a big shift this week. We'll get to that shortly. But yeah, against Moana Pasifika, they need 2 big performances, or the other way around. Moana Pasifika could easily take one of those games, especially at Mount Smart with a packed house. And I dare say the dry under the roof game might suit Moana Pasifika's style too. So yeah, I'm worried as a Highlanders fan, to be honest.
Does that $12 catch your attention at all, Jimmy, or I think we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves here?
Yeah, I think you are a little bit. I think the bookies are roping in with a big carrot there, and they're going to take your money. But I just feel like it's going to be such a hard run for them. Like you said, they've got so many midweek games, which takes its toll. I mean, they've done the first two all right. They've pretty much put out two different squads, but over the next few weeks, you're going to really see as injuries start taking their toll and that depth of the squad gets really tested. It is going to be interesting to see how these teams cross over. Like, how does Moana compare to some of these Australian teams? I feel like they'll probably be favourites against the Waratahs, Rebels, and the Drua. But I can't see them beating the Reds or the Brumbies. That's sort of how I'm lining them up. But it's just a total guessing game at the moment until we see some of these games cross over.
Yeah, the way I sort of had it penciled out, I think you can probably still pencil in the Chiefs, Crusaders, Canes, and Blues, Reds, and Brumbies for sixth spot. And then it sort of seems like it's a bit of a free-for-all for those last two. You got the Highlanders, obviously, Moana.
Highlanders $1.22 to make the quarters. I don't know about that.
It's short. I mean, you put like if you look back to Super Rugby Trans-Tasman last year, they did beat the Reds pretty comfortably. So you'd hope you can pick up 5 or 6 wins from those cross division ones. But yeah, there's plenty of water still to go under the bridge there. No doubt we'll be looking back at this market again in weeks to come. But on the other side of the ledger, on Mount Smart on Friday night, obviously the Hurricanes. What do you reckon the film review would have been like on Monday morning, James? Is that sort of a game where, there's a lot of different stuff going on, COVID still recovering from it, a lot of new combinations? Do you just put a pen through it and move on, or were there some concerning signs there for you as a Canes fan?
Yeah, I don't think they'll just be putting a pen through that one. I think there's some harsh reality and harsh learnings they'll have to take from that game. I felt like it looked like they just thought they were going to win it at some point. They were just going to run away with it. And you could see that they were turning down the shots and they missed a lot of opportunities to play out the back and sort of played into Moana's hands by just carrying into their big men and getting dominated and really slowed down their breakdown, and it just really killed their game. So I think there's a lot of learnings from that game for them. But I think you'll see a different beast this weekend when they take on the Chiefs. They'll bring back the big guns, Artie, a few other changes, I'd imagine. So really looking forward to seeing how they bounce back.
Yeah, no, should be good to see all the big guns back in front of hopefully a decent crowd at the Cake Tin, some afternoon footy. To be fair, another performance we definitely need to touch on after me and Paul spent a lot of last Thursday's show bagging them as the Crusaders, who went up to FMG Stadium and reminded us why they are 225 favourites to win the whole thing. That was about as good a performance as we've seen from anyone this season, right, Karl?
Yeah, I took in the early pods pre-season, I said the field. Then you said Crusaders or field. I think I may want to backtrack on that now after seeing that. Their team is just so good. Like just 1 to 15, 1 to 22 is just stacked. They absolutely dominated that game. The Chiefs did well to hang on the first half, and then it's just those. They score a try and then they score again within 2 or 3 minutes, and it's like bang, it's all over. You're cooked. They're just so good at that, and yeah, I think everyone else needs to be a little bit worried.
Yeah, they're absolutely relentless, right? That sort of period of domination, the first 15 or 20 minutes of the second half, where it felt like they had the ball for the entire time. I think they just broke the Chiefs almost, right? But I'm interested to get you guys' take on this, because what I'm about to say is probably going to sound insane, but I still don't think the Crusaders are really out of about third or fourth gear. Like, that was an awesome performance on Saturday night, and they dominated, but I didn't feel like they were sort of, when they're really firing, they've got these beautiful backline moves. They have the 2-pod system right across the field. They're just tearing teams apart. But I felt like they controlled it and they were really well managed. But then they had Will Jordan, they had Sevu Reece, they had Richie Mo'unga, and that was the difference in a lot of ways. Do you think they might still have another step or two to make from that, James?
Yeah, I think the fact that they haven't really played a lot together, they've been sort of rotating their squad. They've had a few missed weeks, so they haven't been able to really build those combinations. But it's cool to see that they've pretty much picked the same side this week as last week. So good opportunity for them to start building these combinations again. But like you say, man, their team is just so stacked. They've got the best set piece in the comp, which gets them out of trouble whenever they need to. And then you talk about the backs. Their back line has just got star after star who can break the game open and win the game for them single-handedly. But I wouldn't probably be taking that 225. I feel like this quarterfinal system makes it really tough to get your money's worth there. You've still got to win 3 knockout games, and as we've seen already, the Chiefs can go down there with confidence and feel like they could beat the Crusaders at home. You don't know what's going to happen with injuries or who's going to find a run of form or get some confidence from beating some of these Aussie teams. So when it gets to knockout footy, you've got 3 big games, must win. I feel like it's going to be still a pretty hard run for them, no matter where they finish. I do see them finishing top, though. So if there's any odds on that, that's the one I'd be taking.
How does that, as a player, James, you've been in a few quarterfinals, semi-finals, all of that. Is the cliche true? Like once you get there, the season restarts, it's game by game, blah, blah, blah. Is that really what everyone's thinking?
Yeah, well, we learnt the hard way from your bloody Highlanders in 2015. Like, if you were picking someone early in that comp, you would have been backing the Hurricanes hands down and sold out Westpac Stadium. I don't know what we were, probably $1.20 favourites. Had a stack lineup, but like you say, it just doesn't matter. I mean, Highlanders showed up that game. They played one of the games of their history, I guess, and won the Super Rugby title. So I guess that's the reality of the competition. Like, no matter how good the Crusaders are at the moment, they're going to still have to win 3 games back to back and front every week, or else someone's going to beat them.
Since Karl brought up 2015, I'm going to take an opportunity to bring up 2016 as well to the table, because obviously that last game of the regular season, you guys went down to Christchurch knowing you needed a big win to get home field. Is home field a huge thing amongst the players themselves, Lair? Is that something that's like talked about and considered, or is that sort of just something that comes with winning games and playing good rugby?
Yeah, I honestly used to think it was overrated until I played a couple of games where the crowd, you could definitely feel that the crowd brought so much energy to the game. Like, if you're saying just a regular round robin game at Caketon, do you get much advantage? I'd say no, not really. Other than the fact some teams had to travel, like from South Africa or Australia, etc. But when the stadium's full, I definitely feel like there's some advantage there, and the players can get a little bit more energy out of that.
Might just take a chance to go off topic then. We're not talking about this week, but what is the best crowd you've played in front of in terms of atmosphere, at home or away? Is there any particularly memorable ones?
One that really stood out for me was when Taranaki played Tasman in the, I think it was 2014 or 15 final, where we won it, and it was a sold-out Yarrow Stadium, and the energy in that from that crowd was just next level. I felt like it got everyone over-aroused for the game, and we definitely were into it. So we probably didn't play the smartest game, but we managed to come on top with the win. But that was a game where I really felt like, man, we're getting so much energy from this crowd. Like, we're not tired here.
So yeah, no, that was a pretty memorable game. It was great. I think the Kiwis smashed Australia straight after that one as well. So great night all around. But back to Super Rugby this year, because we can't go too off topic as I usually do. Touch on the Crusaders, very good at rugby if you're just catching up. So, but unfortunately, on the other side of the ledger, Chiefs, we're all very high on them, but now Brodie Retallick's done his thumb and he's out for 8 weeks. I don't know if he was quite back sort of 2016, 2017 Brodie, but he was certainly getting close to Pete Guzzler there. How big a loss do you think this is for the Chiefs, Karl? Is this something you're going to factor in pretty heavily looking at their games going forward for the next few weeks?
Yes and no. They've done all right without him for the last couple of years.
True.
So I feel like they could adapt. As you've got in the notes here, it's a huge chance for Vi and Lord. So, one of those two, if not both, have to really step up now. But yeah, I think they can navigate this. James?
I was going to ask James, are you bringing Tupuvi and Josh Lord into all your fantasy rugby teams this week?
I don't have enough trades to get them in. But one thing that is like good for the Chiefs is they do have 2 All Blacks that are going to step in for them. So, like you said, huge opportunity for both these guys, both young, very promising players. Lord looks a little bit like a young Brodie Retallick to me. He's just got that same engine, same skill set. So I'm looking forward to seeing him getting some more game time. But the experience of Brodie Retallick, and I mean, he's world class. So it will leave a little bit of a gap, but with the replacements they've got, not as big as it might look.
So yeah, just one last piece of news I'll touch on as well before we move to the week's end previews. I'm sure something that'll have pleased both of you to see. Denny Solomona is confirmed to join the Highlanders from this. I think he's on the bench actually for the Crusaders clash. Do you think that can sort of give a bit of extra spark or punch to your backline, Karl, especially with the news Thomas Emming and Jensen's still a while away. Probably.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be worse than surely. There's some points there, right? He's a known try scorer. He's got a great try scoring record. Yeah, I think it's a great move by the Highlanders, and I don't think it'll be far away before he sort of pushes for that starting spot, to be honest.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I love it.
James, you're obviously very familiar with Jenny's work. For those who maybe haven't seen much of him playing footy up in the Northern Hemisphere, what is he going to bring to the Highlanders?
Oh, like Karl said, he's an absolute finisher. He's a freakish finisher. He's got some try scoring record, and he's a physical man. I mean, I've still got his shoulder imprinted on my rib cage. He smoked me a couple of times. He loves contact. He's a strong ball carrier, and I'm really excited to see him out there. And like you said, Karl, I don't think he's going to be too far away from securing that starting jersey, and he's definitely something that will add a lot to their side. And yeah, looking forward to seeing him play, especially under the roof. I feel like it's going to suit him. He came on the podcast and he said that he was super excited about playing expansive footy. A lot of the time over there, their roles around kick chase and contesting high balls and stuff like that. Not really the style of footy that he liked to play. So I'm sure the Highlanders style of play will really suit him, and they'll play a pretty free-flowing game for him.
He'll just get a license to roam, wouldn't he? He'd just do what you want, be wherever you want to be, and touch the ball as many times as you want.
Sort of like they were doing with Connor Garden-Bishop at the start of last season, where they were calling it the shark roll or something, where it was named on the right wing, but essentially just floating in and picking his spots, and sort of like you see maybe at Pappenhausen or Sloan do in the NRL. That's type of role. So yeah, very exciting. And that does bring us on nicely to the first clash of round 7 in Super Rugby Pacific. Your boys heading up to Orange Theory Stadium to take on the Mighty Crusaders, have just got to name a casual 6 All Blacks and Lester Fanganuku in their backline for this one. So
7 All Blacks.
Yeah.
No, don't
worry. I'm counting Lester as an All Black. He's on fire, mate.
Yeah, we're very much on the Fanganuku for the All Blacks bandwagon on this podcast. So can't wait to see that happen, hopefully against Ireland. But the last game between these two sides, it was pretty close to the first 60 minutes or so. Are you holding out some hope? And obviously, we've got to touch on the upset from last year. Can't forget that one where
that was
the Highlanders went up there and laid the smackdown.
Exceptional.
Can we see a repeat?
I think we can. I don't think we will. Like I wouldn't be surprised if the Highlanders won, but I'm also not going to be surprised if the Crusaders win by 20. It's a tough one. Like I was just looking at the last 10 games. Highlanders have only won 2, and the winning margin in those 8 games the Crusaders have won has been 18. The average winning margin. So I was sort of looking at the odds and the line in that. I thought, this will be pretty close. It was 12 points last time out. The Highlanders can probably stick with them, but I don't know, man. Like we talked about, the Crusaders just go bang bang, particularly in that 65 to 80 minute mark. Yeah. But for me, the Highlanders need to start fast. That's where they've really struggled the first few weeks of this tournament. They've started slow and they've been chasing the game. Shore up their defense around the ruck. That's been horrible, and their midfield defense. So a little bit to work on.
Obviously,
keen to hear what you guys think.
Obviously, the Crusaders would have been, I think they would have had a target on that Chiefs game last week, right? Like after losing to them a couple of weeks before. Do you reckon there's a potential of a bit of a letdown here, Jimmy? Like if they were all in for last week and maybe there's still a few lingering effects of COVID around the camp and whatnot, maybe they take the foot off the gas here a bit, or Southern Derby, they're not going to let that happen.
Yeah, I can't see that happening. I think all the New Zealand teams know that if you're slightly off on your game coming up against them, you're gonna lose those games. So there's such small margins that decide games these days. So I think the Crusaders, and looking at their lineup, what they've named, they're definitely not taking this game lightly. They haven't rotated anyone. They're looking to get their combinations going. So I'm a little bit like Karl. It wouldn't fully surprise me if the Highlanders won, but I also think the Crusaders might put on a clinic in this game and they get their combinations hissing. And I'd probably be leaning towards the 13+ margin.
Yeah, no, I could certainly see it being one of those games where the Crusaders just score a couple of those early tries, like they sometimes do, right? They come flying out the blocks. Will Jordan's just created something out of nothing, and then it's like sort of a 12, 14-point game, and they just keep the Highlanders at arm's length. The rest of it.
The Highlanders fans know that all too well. Just like, if we just score a try now, we're back in it.
I think it was when the Hurricanes went down there last season. Artie got sin binned about 10 minutes in. The Crusaders scored 3 tries while he was in the bench, and the rest of the game it was just like back and forth. They couldn't get any closer, but they weren't pulling away. So
looking at those results in those last 10, I haven't got the numbers here, but there was a lot of sort of 20-point blowouts, and I can remember watching a lot of them, and it was like right up until this 70th, 75th minute, the Highlanders were only sort of 1 try away, and then like I say, it's bang bang. It's like, oh cool. Now it looks like it was a terrible game. So the score probably doesn't reflect, the margin probably doesn't reflect the games, but you just got to be playing for 85 minutes against the Crusaders team.
And that's when the bench comes into it too. I feel like the depth that the Crusaders have in their squad and along their bench makes a massive impact when they start bringing them on with 20, 10, 30 to go. They're the guys who are really bringing that next level and finishing teams, like you said, like in those last sort of 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, it's going to should be a good one, especially looks like we're going to have a dry track at Orange Theory Stadium. A bit of rain in the morning that should have cleared up by around lunchtime. We're all sort of leaning the way the Crusaders, probably be a good one for a bit of a same-game multi with same-game claim in play. Who do you reckon is a good try score option to chuck in same-game multis, James, for you to... There's plenty of options to pick there from the Crusaders.
Plenty. I haven't actually seen the odds, but I mean, Will Jordan's always a great shout. The kid loves a try. Leicester, he's always hungry, especially when he gets close to the line. He'll run some of those hard lines like he did the other week actually against the Chiefs. He loves that line and can always find his way over. Cody Taylor's not a bad shout at the back of the maul. So there you're probably 3 standouts. Looking for a little bit of value. Ethan Blackadder.
I think
any of the All Blacks.
Loose forwards have a pretty good try scoring record against the Highlanders this season. You sort of touched on their defence around the ruck. So I could see Ethan does love the dirty stuff. So I can see him sort of driving over for a try later on there. That'd be.
Cullen Grace was sniffing around the ruck last week.
Yeah, he was great. A couple of those runs he had out on the edges there, he was starting to look like a real dual threat player there. But I think that is there anything else you want to touch on for this game, or are you pretty keen to move on?
Fingers crossed. Hold on, Highlanders fans.
Fair enough.
We've got to come good at some point.
Yeah, no, that's true. Well, you do get to play the Rebels and the Force in a few weeks, so
I think we need a couple of wins before that.
But I think we should probably head to Eden Park because this certainly looks like a pretty exciting clash after what we saw on Tuesday night.
Yeah.
I think we'll see 2 very different teams named. So obviously, I think Moana Pasifika changed 14 of their starting 15 from the game against the Hurricanes. So a lot of them will come back. The Blues obviously have a lot of big guns to pull back in as well. But just wanted to ask you first before you get stuck into the nitty gritty, James. I don't know if you had to do many of the 3-day turnarounds back when we were doing Wednesday to Sundays and whatnot in the New Zealand Cup back in the day. Just how tough is it sort of getting your body ready for another game of footy so quickly after what was a pretty bruising encounter on Tuesday night?
Yeah, it can be really tough, and you don't really feel it until you sort of get late in the game, and in the second game you start to really notice it. But I think that the hardest thing is usually the preparation. You just don't get that preparation. So thankfully both teams are playing the same team, so I'm guessing they're going to come in with similar game plans. They're not going to change too much and probably just roll out exactly what they did the week earlier. But like you mentioned, I think both sides are going to be almost to their full strength this weekend. Looks like they played almost the second stringers on Tuesday, looking to roll out the big guns. And I think the Blues #1 side is a lot stronger than the Moana #1 side. So I've been wrong every time I've picked the Moana game. I've thought they're going to be close when they haven't. And when I've picked them going to get a hiding, they've been close. So I think this one could be a bit of a blowout, to be fair.
Are you sort of expecting the Blues extra quality to show through, or maybe the quick turnaround drags everyone back to the pack and we see another dogfight?
It probably brings them back a little bit, but given the teams are very different, I think Moana Pasifika will take more out of the game on Tuesday than the Blues will. knowing that their second stringers can sort of go with the other with the Blues. But yeah, I don't know. Is my sort of question or thinking is how big of a loss is Bodie, and is he done for the season?
Well, it sounds like he sort of passed the. Obviously, don't know the ins and outs of it all, but he passed the sort of initial concussion test, so he's not. He's not. But yeah, just the concern about seeing what was a pretty ugly looking head knock.
I can give you some insight there. He'll be back. He'll be back the next week. He's available against the Chiefs. So it was more of a stiff neck, which was giving him referring head pain. So thankfully, because man, it was the worst sight to see him coming off with what looked like a head knock, and especially after what he'd been through. So awesome to see and hear that he's doing well, and he should be back pretty soon.
Oh, there you go. That blows my theory out the water. So
good to have some more Bowden Barrett mail on the podcast. Hopefully it's more reliable than the last one we had. Shout out to Matty Fisk if you're listening.
That's right.
So yeah, hopefully we see Bodie back in action next week. But I think Stephen Perifetta has been awesome so far this season, right? Like it's certainly not a bad choice to have as your backup 10. And then you got Zane Sullivan, who I tipped out to maybe be an All Black bowler pre-season. I'm not sure how that prediction's tracking, but he's certainly got all the talent in the world. So yeah, the Rieko Ioane to come in, Caleb Clark scoring tries for fun at the moment. It's going to be a pretty impressive Blues backline, and then you sort of got
could easily be a game where you see pretty tight for the first 50 or 60, and then maybe the short turnarounds catch up with Moana Pasifika and the Blues run away with it.
Maybe a bit, like the Chiefs game at Mount Smart 2 weeks ago, where they were still very competitive for the first 50 minutes. So, although to be fair, I would have to say like the Blues against the Highlanders, they had all the ball and they were like creating line breaks at will pretty much in that first 40, but they didn't really like sort of put them to the sword and actually turn a lot of those chances into points. Is that something that's concerned you at all about seeing them, James? And maybe they're not the most clinical, they're a bit more style than substance, maybe? I don't know if that's too harsh or...
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I noticed the same thing, and it was the same against the Hurricanes when they played them down there at Forsyth Bar. I felt like they played almost the perfect 60 minutes of footy and then somehow managed to lose that game. So you're right that when they're playing well, man, they're playing some really attractive footy and haven't quite been getting the points that they probably deserve from different situations. But if they do start finishing some of these opportunities that they're creating from their shape and the way they're playing, I think if it clicks, it could be a big score.
Yeah, it does seem like, I suppose, one of those things where it might take them a few weeks to get going, sort of like the Crusaders, but then there'll be that one performance where it does click and they're putting up 50 points or something, and Caleb Clark's got a hat-trick, Rico's got 2.
Maybe this could be completely left field, but is it more defensively? Like that Highlanders game, I think it was Sam Gilbert's 2 tries. It seemed like the outside backs were rushing, not a lot of talk, sort of man-to-man on the inside, and that's where Gilbert just sort of sliced through the line twice.
Yeah,
could be a one-off.
I did think defensively, I don't know if I'm just reading into this, but I was starting to see a lot of Joe Schmidt's fingerprints on what they're doing. So maybe I thought he'd bought a few of his defensive systems from what he'd been doing in Ireland over, and it has just taken them a few weeks to get everything up to speed, because I think that's a system, right? It sort of takes a while for it to really bed in, but once it does, you're going to be lucky to score 10 points a game against them, sort of thing, the way they work. So maybe something to keep an eye on, but I think the talent's obviously there, and you'd rather be creating the opportunities and not converting them rather than probably doing a Warriors and only scoring off chases.
Hey. Don't do that.
Anyway, feel like after giving that little shot, and I have to probably let Karl have a few shots at the Hurricanes. So unless there's anything else you want to touch on, I think. I did actually just want to ask. I don't know how quickly. You sort of mentioned there's not much preparation time that goes in sort of these 3 days turnarounds. James, do we want to just be backing hookers to score tries again on Saturday night after it seemed like the whole game was a big rolling maul on Tuesday?
Yeah, it was interesting. I didn't really predict that either, but if you're going off last week's Tuesday's game, you'd be backing both hookers and probably coming away with the chocolates. But I think this game might be played a little bit differently. I just think the stronger sides and the Blues backline, I think they're really going to try and utilise their backline this week. So, it's interesting. I'm not too sure who'd be playing on a try scorer, but like you say, hooker's probably the safe bet.
Yeah, maybe a Kudikland, Caleb Clark double with the Blues or something. Hard to go wrong with those two at the moment.
How far? This might be a dumb question, but how far away is Roger?
I think they said at least a month at the start of the year, so I can't imagine they'd be rushing him back for this game.
No.
Yeah, probably. But
just weather watch update too. It will be a lot of points. No rolling malls, plenty of sun, very dry.
I did have a nibble on the number 2 to score the most tries in the Waterland power plays last week, so I was very disappointed Tuesday night's game wasn't included as well.
That would have been a game changer.
Yeah.
What was it, 5 in that game or 4?
It was it. I think there's 5 rolling maul tries and 4 of them were
doubles,
number 2s. Yeah. Ricky Talley got the second and third tries, which when you backed him for first try scorer,
no,
a bit frustrating. But we move on. It's all about the process. All right, let's speaking of the process, let's head down to Sky Stadium. My information around the Hurricanes games has been locations has been quite a few the last couple of weeks. But Sky Stadium, Sunday afternoon, 3:35. Bit of afternoon footy in the Cake Tin. Both teams obviously will be rearing to get back out on the park and make amends for what happened last week. Who do you reckon's better placed to get back to winning ways here, Jimmy?
I'm pretty biased when it comes to the Hurricanes, but I think both teams. I think this game's going to be a really even one. I was surprised to see the odds so short with the Chiefs. They've been playing really well, but I feel like a lot of these New Zealand teams are just so close that small margins win these games. Couple of referee decisions, couple of missed opportunities. Pretty much win or lose you these games. So as long as both teams turn up, I think either one of them could win. And like I said before, with the Hurricanes bringing back the big guns for this one, I think they'll be pretty angry after that last game. So, I'll be tipping the Canes.
Do you think with, obviously, TJ, that was his first game back in a Canes jersey for a long time, obviously get a bit of natural improvement there, just with him being a bit more familiar with the guys around me, hadn't played a lot of footy with Aidan Morgan and Ruben Love and those guys. Should we see them sort of just naturally take a step forward with communication and everything?
Yeah, I think the biggest issue, any nine who will tell you that if your team's not winning the breakdown and getting slow ball, man, your game's, it's so hard to get your game going. And I think that's what we saw. The boys just got beaten up and the ball was really slow. The ruck ball was messy and made it a real tough night for TJ. So felt sorry for him a little bit, but hopefully the boys will sort that out this weekend and we can see him at his best.
So the back's blaming it on the forwards there, I see.
Oh, but it's backs as well, to be fair. The backs have to be able to get in there and clean and win that race. But, it's a full team thing. I just felt like, I don't know if it was a mental thing or whether it was just a physical thing, but they were definitely beaten up and really struggled to get their game going.
Yeah, no. If the Hurricanes are struggling with the physicality of Moana Pasifika, how do you reckon they'll go against this Chiefs pack, which even without Brody is still one of the more fearsome units in the comp?
Yeah, like Jimmy said, it's going to be a very tight game. Either way, both teams can definitely win this. I think I personally think the Chiefs have got the edge in this one, and they'll be hurting just as much, if not a little bit more. They were up for that game last week, and the way it ended, I think they'll be very dirty on themselves. Yeah. But they too welcome back the big guns this week. Plenty of All Black talent back into the Chiefs mix as well. So.
And Clayton McMillan should be back in the coach's box so well. But I did enjoy the pop-up of him jumping around the stadium differently. I thought the Chiefs should have moved it down, have it behind the posts at one stage, have it all over the place.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this game. It'll be good.
Yeah, no, I do enjoy that. The Sunday Arvo game against the Crusaders that kicked in last year was a great clash. So hopefully we see something similar, but slightly different ending.
Funny story. I took my daughter, she was 4 at the time, first rugby game, took her to that game with another mate and his son, also 4. And we got there and the kids were loving the atmosphere, having a lot of fun. And then about 10 minutes in, my mate's son goes, "Dad, I want to go home. This is boring." So he started kicking off, and I think they left at halftime. I said to my daughter, I was like, "Do you want to go? Are you happy to stay?" She's like, "No, this is fun. I want to stay. It was awesome."
Lifelong Canes fan, I hope.
Wow.
Who have you got your eye on here as maybe some potential game breakers for the Hurricanes or the Chiefs? I think, both teams probably need their big guns to step up if they want to win this one, given we see it as being a pretty close one. Who can you see sort of grabbing game by the scruff of the neck, James?
There's no bigger gun at the moment than Geordie Barrett. And I've got a sneaky suspicion that he might be making a move into midfield this week. I just feel like the extra physicality, they want to get him involved a little bit more. And I loved what Ruben Love did in the weekend when he came off the bench, back at fullback. I'm thinking they're going to try and get him involved a little bit more and maybe make this move to 12 that he's been hinting about for a very long time.
Sneaky suspicion, or is that a TAB exclusive?
It's still a sneaky suspicion.
Don't worry, we'll never take anything out of context off the podcast and pass through all over social media. So.
Especially about Geordie.
Yeah. Midfield for the Warriors this week, is that?
Yeah, in the halves, I think, with SJ. I think they're both there.
Oh, that would be a sight. Yeah, I think got to think Artie versus Sam Cane is going to be another very exciting battle to watch, presuming we both see them on the park list. Tom Christie's been sort of tearing up trees all over the South Island for the Crusaders the last few weeks, so I'm sure we'll start to get some All Black buzz from him and the Christchurch Press and other Crusaders affiliated media outlets. So who do you sort of see coming out on top of that battle?
I feel like you've probably got more insight to this than us, Jimmy, but I feel like Artie's one of those guys that really feeds off the crowd and the energy at the stadium in particular. He always seems to sort of get up, and he's a freak. I love watching Artie, and it'd be good to see him back.
I don't think he needs much to feed off, right? He just he'd be playing just down at the polo grounds for Auries in front of 20 people, and he'd still be carrying teams on his back. That sort of guy.
He's just so consistent, eh? He's so consistently good. He turns up every week with that same mentality, and I love watching him play. I love playing with him. He's just a little bit different to everyone else. But on Sam Cane, I feel like he's been super impressive as well this year. The way he hits the rucks and hits people with his shoulder, he's so physical, and I feel like he gets a hard time unnecessarily because, man, he's a good player, and I'm hoping to see him back in that black jersey as well.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely no knock from Sam Cane here. I still think if you just watch him during a game, don't watch where the ball is and the work rate of the guy. You get tired just watching it. He's never off his feet. It's just those things.
Just on Artie, I don't know if it was on your podcast, James, but I love the story of him being told, I think by Steve Hansen, to sort of, whenever the camera's on you, sort of don't look like you're so gassed all the time. You make us look bad. He just gives it his all every time, and he just looks like he's got no energy. And then out of nowhere, he gets the ball and he's busting tackles. And
I've heard where he had the sort of transformation. He was playing that game on the busted MCL, and he was like literally down on the ground grabbing his knee, and then the next second he pops up and he's winning a breakdown turnover and going 60 meters the other way. So we got to bottle that somehow. The guy's superhuman.
Sorry, I just think another player to watch out for. I think Joshua he's been named at 10. Probably hasn't had the season we thought he might. I mean, in and out of the side, and he's got a good chance here to sort of make a mark on that 10 jersey and keep it for the rest of the season, I think. It'll be a good test for him going up against the Canes.
Yeah, and good to see Peter Gus-Sokula back in the 8 jersey as well. Thank you for alerting me to the fact that Chiefs are in their team. So I can just go and have a quick look there. But
very good team.
It is, very, very impressive. Kapire and Leonard Brown back in the midfield. Nankivell on the wing. So you've had to do with Alex Nankivell. He was a standout for the Chiefs last week.
He's huge.
Do you reckon he'll go well on the wing there outside the two All Blacks in the midfield?
Yeah, I was wondering what they're going to do there with Anton Leonard-Brown back. Whether I felt like Nankivell played way too well last week to drop him, so I was wondering how they're going to try and work that. But chucking him to the wing, he played a little bit there against the Crusaders the other week, and when Nanai Satoru was out late last minute, so I thought he played really well there. So I think it's a good option. He's a dangerous player, and he's smart on D, so I think he'll fit in really well.
Yeah, no, that's right. And gives you that other defensive option. You can get pretty creative, I presume, with sort of the Hurricanes are going to have a lot of Geordie and the way they play with their hookers and Artie out on the edges. It's never going to hurt to have bigger bodies to defend those sort of blokes. Anything else you guys want to touch on from the New Zealand games before we take a quick hop across the Tasman?
No, we've covered most of it.
Yeah. No, I think got plenty to go on there. We'll just sort of touch quickly on the 2 Australian games. I think obviously the main event is Saturday night. up in Queensland, where we're getting a rematch of the top of the table clash. The Brumbies got home by the skin of their teeth 2 weeks ago, but the Reds now have home advantage, and I think Tate McDermott should be back at the halfback after getting the start of 9 last week. You think that'll be enough for the Reds to turn the tables on them, James?
Yeah, I picked the Reds last time, to be fair, and it was one of those games where even at the 80th minute, I still thought they were going to win. They had that midfield scrum, but blew the opportunity. I feel like they've got a better side, and I really like the way that their backs play, but this game's going to be super close. There's no doubting that. They're both the best teams in Australia. Brumbies forward pack, very dominant. So as long as the Reds can hold up at set piece time, I think they'll be getting the win here.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say. I don't know who's going to win it, but I know there'll be a scrum somewhere in the field in the 78th or 92nd minute that with the results still in the balance. It seems like every game these two teams play, it's decided by 2 points and there's some sort of crazy ending. So expecting another one that goes down to the last minute here.
Yeah, definitely. Reds got the edge here. Obviously, home track. O'Connor's in some incredible form. Have always loved watching James O'Connor. And he's dangerous.
Yeah, him and McDermott as a combo, I think Dave Rennie's got to be pretty pleased that they seem to be really gelling and working together. I think at their best, that's probably the Wallabies' best option in the halves as they head into Rugby Championship and the series against England. So a lot to watch there. And another big name from the Wallabies who's back in action this week, although only off the bench, is Michael Hooper, who is set to make his Waratahs return first time for 18 months or almost 2 years as they head up to, I think it's Seabus Super Stadium on the Gold Coast to take on the Drua. 8.5 point favourites, so Waratahs probably the biggest favourites they've been for a footy game in a while outside of the Rebels. Does seeing the Waratahs at such a short price put you off there, James?
Yeah, I'd probably be leaning towards the Drua and finding that value there. I don't think the Waratahs are good enough to be favourites against anyone, to be fair. Just the thing with the Drua, though, they're just so inconsistent. Like 1 minute they look like they can beat the Reds, and then next minute they're putting that performance they did last week against the Rebels. So just the consistency with their side, and I guess that's preparation, being used to and playing good sides week in and week out. But if they turn up, there's no doubt they'll win this game, but that's a big if. So I'd probably take that 270 though and watch the game and enjoy it.
320 you're getting now. So.
Oh, 320. Oh, jeez.
Long time listeners of the show will be not surprised at all to hear me say I'd back the Drua as well. I think probably just take the 320 rather than the point start. That's the sort of thing. If they click, looks like it'll be dry track up there on the Gold Coast. It's usually pretty high scoring ground. So if they're playing the way they can and the offloads are sticking, I can see them running some points on. But it feels like they'll either win or lose by 20. So
I think it'd be a better place than the first time they played the Waratahs for sure. So another interesting one to watch. The Drua could be a Moana Pasifika when we get it.
Yeah.
Wow, it's going to be exciting.
I don't know which side of the Tasman that's actually slated to be played at, but if we can get that at Mount Smart with a full crowd, that'd be awesome. So
a double header with the Warriors. Oh, how good.
We've had the one Warriors mentioned for this week. And just on the Waratahs as well, they're still without Jake Gordon and playing Tana Emi just as second start in the 10 jersey as well. So pretty inexperienced halves pairing. They probably weren't at their best against the Waratahs, against the Rebels with those two there. So maybe if you need any other reasons to back the Drua, that could be follow us in. But that sort of brings us on nicely, because it would be very silly of us to have James on the podcast and not touch on some power plays. And the first one the bookies have got lined up for us this week is the highest scoring match of the round. If you go into our Super Rugby outrights and scroll down, see round 7 Waddle Ad power plays there. We've got prices available for each of the 5 games to be the high scoring match of the round. I actually think the game we just touched on, Waratahs Drua at 450, is a pretty good shout there. We know the Drua can certainly put the points on the board if they when they get going, and they conceded 43 of the Rebels last week. So if you can, or 42 I think it was. So if you can concede 42 of the Rebels, you can concede points to anyone.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had much of a chance to have a look at this market yet, James, but where did your eyes jump to when you first saw it?
Yeah, I did see it, and I was actually surprised to see the Chiefs-Canes game favourite. I know they're playing afternoon footy, but I can't see that being a really high-scoring game that's going to win this round. I sort of thought Blues Moana might have been the favourite. I think the Blues with their strongest back line. There's a lot of points in that back line. Karl mentioned it's going to be sunny and free-flowing weather. So I think there's a lot of points in that game. And I also liked the Waratahs Drua game as well. I feel like the 450 around that's pretty juicy as well to watch. So if I was betting, I'd be going the Blues Moana, but wouldn't be against the Waratahs Drua game as well.
How about you?
Yeah, I got the Blues Moana game circled. I can see Moana Pasifika getting 20, 3, maybe 4 tries, and then the Blues doing 5, 6, 7 pretty comfortably too.
The Blues could score 55 and just win it by themselves, right?
Exactly,
That's not out of the question.
What do we reckon the total will be?
Well, the Brumbies' force game had 77 points in it last round. So I think last round might have been a bit of an outlier. So it was a pretty high scoring round. Maybe the matchups aren't as conducive to, I think 60 points could be enough to get you home. So
I could see the Crusaders Highlanders game too. Another one where the Highlanders can score 3 tries and then the Crusaders win by 20 in the last couple of minutes.
Sort of 26-19 with 10 minutes to play, and then Crusaders go bang bang at the end. Yeah.
The advantage of that game too, obviously, in the roof. Oh no, it's not. It's not in the roof.
No, it's
at
Christchurch.
No, take that back.
I do think probably the Blues Moana Pacific game deserves to be favourite over the Hurricanes Chiefs. If it's a tight one, that'll probably even up. We also got another power play the bookies have priced up for us is the amount of players score a double, 2 or more tries in the round. They think it's going to be 2 or 3. That's the $1.65 favourite. But you can also get $4.50 for 1 player or 0 players score a double, or $4 for 4 or more players.
Give me that. 4 or more.
Going 4 or more?
Yeah. Let's go.
Have you got any candidates?
Haven't really thought that far ahead. There's someone from the Blues, someone from the Crusaders. Reds Brumbies would be pretty tight, so maybe a hooker might grab a double there.
Drua.
And Drua, yeah.
Revovo for a double.
Revovo, yeah. Bossy.
Yeah, he's super busy for August, so he'll be around.
Yeah.
I did do a few little countbacks here, and we only had 3 last round. But in round 4 there was 4 doubles, so don't have to go too far back to find the $4 getting a bit of value for you. Did you ever have a lean for this one, James?
Yeah, to be honest, I thought the bookies priced this right. Like, I think the 2 to 3 is probably the smart money, and whether you just multi that up. But if you're just looking for a single bet, then I'd be chasing the value with the $4 to 3 or more. Oh, what was it? 4 or more. So I think the smart money is probably the 2 to 3. I think, like you said, I think there's 1 game less than there was probably that week. There was 4 tries as well. So that definitely adds to that as well.
Yeah, no, that's probably fair. Good to have you bring a bit of sense back to me and Karl get carried away as we usually do. But, and the last power play we'll touch on as well. Number of games won by 13 plus. Obviously, the 13 plus is a favourite of the punters, and we got 2 or less games won by 13 plus at $2.75. Exactly 3 at $2.50, or 4 or more at $3. How many blowouts do you reckon we'll see?
That's a tough one, eh? I thought they got the market pretty good there as well, but 3 such a niggly number to be taking to be winding home for the weekend. I'd probably go the 2 or less.
I think
thinking the Blues game and 1 more, not sure who.
Blues and Crusaders.
Yeah, there's only 2. If you look at sort of the point starts for each game, or what's expected to happen, there's only 2 games or the point start of more than 8.5 this week. You got the Blues are 22.5 point favourites against Moana, and then 15 points is the line in the Crusaders game. So you're pretty much saying you need the Waratahs, Chiefs, or I can't see the Reds or Brumbies winning that by 13 plus. So still more, almost 3 to 1 does seem like it might be worth a little nudge.
There we go. We found it.
Yeah.
Common sense.
Doing some good work here.
Process of elimination.
Don't say we don't run the numbers and do the stats here, fellas.
Just did the work for you guys.
Right. Might as well, running out of time quickly, as is my want as a podcast host. So we need to get some best bets off all of us before we hit the road. What's your best bet for the round, Jimmy? If you're only betting on one thing, where are you going?
I'm going Reds unders, Reds 12 and unders. I think there's no way that game's going to be a blowout, and I think the Reds are going to be good enough to get home there. So 270 there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I like that as a punt.
So how about you, Karl? What's the best bet?
This makes me sick to my stomach, and I might cop a lot from my family and friends, but Crusaders minus 15.5.
Wow.
$1.82. Oh, I really wanted to go the other way, but I looked at the stats, and as I said, Crusaders won 8 the last 10 and probably 20 of the last 22. I don't know, but the margin was average margin of 18. So I could see it being tight for the majority of the game, and then, like I say, that blowout at the end. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. But $1.82 for that.
Nice one. I've had, like we said, it was a tough week last week for me. Drill my best bet and my value bet and my underdog, I think. So I just need to get some runs back on the board. I'm going to play this with a real straight bet, not going into the head-to-heads or anything, but you can get $1.70 for Leicester Ganuku to score a try. Chuck that in all your multis. Just load up on it. Get your week off to a good start Friday night. I just can't see him not scoring the way the Blues were sort of making their way through the middle of that Highlanders midfield like it was I don't know, I was trying to think of a big street. Yeah. I got too carried away thinking about Leicester scoring tries to come up with a good analogy there. But that's my best bet for the round, and it's perfect for all your same game multis. Oval Ball multi-buster on Friday night with a couple of NRL games, all the good stuff. So get stuck into that one. Is there any value that jumped out for you as well on the card this week, James?
Well, my best bet wasn't too bad value after seeing your ones, but my value bet I'd be going in the Waterloo power play, going that Blues Moana high scoring game, 375. I feel like that's juicy value for good interest for the whole round too. You get to watch all the games for your whatever punt you're putting down on it, and you're watching all the games pretty closely, winding home that game being the high scoring. So that's my value bet, I think.
Nothing. You got a bit of value as well for us, Karl?
I do. You're not going to like it, lads. Chiefs 1-10 at 350. 10 of the last 12 between these two have been resulted 12 or under.
And the Chiefs have been on the better end of a lot of those, I think.
Yeah, there's been one that was 13, and then the other one was, I think, about 22 or 26. So this will be a tight game. Could go either way. I did like the try bet, either team 7 or under, and I think about 260. But I like to look for a little more value than that. So 350.
Nice. Yeah, that's hard to argue with that one. Both games last season as well. Obviously, Chiefs 1-12 in equally agonising fashion for us Canes fans. So
there was a draw not too long ago too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm sticking at Orange Theory Stadium with my value bet though as well. Back to the old faithful. Get some runs on the board. Crusaders 11-20 at 370.
Yeah,
backing your boys to do just enough to keep it close for long enough to get me on the board there. How about an underdog? As if you had to pick one of the outsiders this week to cause an upset, Draw or Canes, I feel like might be your two leading options there, James.
Yeah. I'm going both of them. I think both of them are going to win this weekend. So, I think they're probably the two shouts for the underdog of the week. I can't see anyone else really winning. So, bit of value around both of those who are, I think, a 50-50 chance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Who's your favourite underdog, Karl?
I had the Brumbies.
Oh, yeah.
Top of the table. They're pretty good unit. So,
it's true.
Could go either way.
I had the Druid because this is the Pick and Go podcast, and that's what I do. So I'll run with the Druid. It's still value at 320. We're definitely up for the season back in the Druid. So I'm just going to keep going with that. And obviously, we've got Super Rugby bonus back on every game this round, where if you place a pre-match winning team and margin bet, and you back the right team, but they win by the wrong margin, we'll refund you up to $50 as a bonus bet. James, you've already tipped out Reds 1-12 for us. Do you want to stick with that as your official Super Rugby bonus bet, or is there anything else you might be worth having to play at too for the promo?
Oh, that's a juicy offer, and when your best bet's even got a money back special guarantee behind it, mate, it's even more of a reason. Other options, I'd go Crusaders 13+, Blues 13+. I think both of those probably good things, knowing that they're going to win and you'll get your money back even if they don't quite blow out to what you expect. So that'd be the two other games I'd play on that market.
Nice one. What's your favourite bonus bet bet on the card this week?
Like I said, I like to chase value. So Chiefs 1-12 at 320.
no, I can certainly see that happening. I do like my usual play with the games is to go with the short price favourite in the game. Maybe I think being close, but you're feeling pretty good about getting your bonus bet back either. But I think I've got to go Chiefs 1 to 12 as well. I think they're probably deserving favourites over the Hurricanes, but the Canes can keep it close. So I'll do that. That about does us for this week's Pick and Go podcast, unless there's any other notes the two of you want to throw out for the punters before we let everyone get on with their lives?
No, I'm good.
Thanks very much for joining us, James. It's been great to have you on, providing plenty of insight. I feel like we got through a lot of good areas there with all the power play chat and everything else. So definitely added a lot. You will have Paul Moana on his toes, no doubt, when he returns from kicking balls around a golf course next week. So many thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for having me on. Hopefully we see Geordie run out at 12 and all my predictions come in.
We'll have to keep a Jimmy Marshall mail watch going this week to see how many of these happen. And thanks for jumping on as well, Karl. Always good to have the Highlanders represented on the podcast.
I don't think I was too biased this week.
You were anti-Highlanders, I felt. You fooled me as a Highlanders fan. You were against them all day.
Not against them, just...
We'll get you back on when the Hurricanes are playing the Highlanders again and see if you can maintain a straight face for that one.
Yeah.
But thanks for joining us, punters. Hopefully managed to find a winner or two this week, and we'll be back next week to break down all the action from this weekend and look ahead to another round of rugby. Have a good one.